Hey everybody, welcome back to Montreal Connected. Now, after a week of anxious waiting, the Montreal Canadiens have finally entered the second round of the NHL playoffs. Joined today by Sean Gordon and Arpon Basu. And listen, we're talking about the next series, but let's talk about the series they just had in the first round. They kind of breezed past the Lightning. This is going to be a way different series.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the funny thing about the Lightning series is that they were the lower seed, but I mean, by and large, most people had the Canadiens in that series. Yeah. They benefited from an injury to their number one goalie. They did probably have a better team at the end of the day, more experience. That is not the case against the Bruins at all. The Bruins are a battle-hardened team. They've had a lot of playoff experience. They have the best goaltender in the league. They have everything going for them, except for the fact that they have trouble beating the Canadiens.
Well, and to me, and this is where you take the sort of the matchups on paper, right?
Yep.
You look at them, you fold it into a tiny little thing, and you burn it because weird stuff happens when the Habs play the Bruins in the playoffs. 24-9 lifetime, right?
That's Montreal winning 6 of the last 8 matchups. And then you have Boston, top of the Eastern Conference. And what do you see happening here? It's tough to see how it's going to play out for that reason,
well,
right?
I think that I just, for the fun of it, I went back and looked at 2011 because I don't trust my memories of that series, right? And you'll recall that they stretched Boston to 7. They should have won that series. They were up 3-1. They had a couple of slip-ups here at home. I looked at the roster. Montreal had they had Brent Sopel on the blue line, right?
Yeah,
Then James Wisniewski is the top. They had no Max Pacioretty.
Brent Sopel was the Mike Weaver of that.
Right, essentially. But they had no Max Pacioretty. They had no Andrei Markov. They had no Alexei Emelin. They had no Thomas Vanek. They had no Danny Briere. And Boston arguably was a better team in 2011 than they are because even as good as Tuukka Rask is, Tim Thomas was in the middle of one of the greatest, if not the greatest, statistical seasons ever, and it went to Game 7 overtime. And I think to myself that, you know what? It's again, on paper, maybe Boston is stronger. On paper, maybe they have all the pieces. In practice,
Well, the big difference, I think, between then and now is that the Canadiens can actually roll 4 lines with the same confidence that Claude Julien can with the Bruins, which is really the Bruins' strength. The Bruins' strength is that they can put any line out whenever they want, and it's not a problem. And now the roles are almost reversed because the Bruins are actually the ones that need specific lines against specific matchups, and Michel Therrien has the ability to just throw whoever he wants out there and feel confident that they can either come out even or actually come out ahead in the matchup with the Bruins up front.
And the other thing I would add is that Carey Price, if Tuukka Rask is the best goalie in the league, Carey Price is like the width of his nose behind him. It's very, very close.
And it all comes down to goaltending sometimes. But you're talking about big names, right? You're on the Canadiens now, but let's talk about the big bodies of the Bruins, right? You got Chara and Lucic. Now, how is Montreal going to get past that physical game of the Bruins?
Well, I mean, I'm going to just say, Peter Chiarelli was talking the other day about, he was being asked questions about the team's lack of speed when compared to the Canadiens, and he got upset. And he's like, you know what, I think that's a stereotype. Well, in the same regards, I think the stereotype of the small Habs not being able to match up physically with anyone is also a stereotype based on a few players, Briere, Desharnais, Gallagher, Giunta. I mean, you have these guys, but they're surrounded by other guys who are physically strong and who are able to stand up to the Bruins every time they face them. Guys like Prust, Moen's probably going to be back in this series. You have obviously Alexei Emelin, who has taken over from PK Subban as public enemy number 1 in Boston. So they have guys who not only physically stand up to the Bruins, they actually initiate the physical stuff with them, which frustrates the Bruins even more. Which is going to be a big mental factor, I think, in this series.
The other thing also, I think that the way that you counter that advantage is to use your advantage, which is speed and execution in terms of making quick passes and being up the ice a lot and using that forecheck. Because Boston's forecheck against the Habs typically looks like the forecheck that the Habs used against the Lightning. It's very aggressive, and I think that by doing that, Montreal you got to catch a guy to hit him, right? And if you have the puck all the time, they're chasing. And so I think that's going to be the mindset, or at least the approach.
And you got to stay out of the box as well. I mean, the power play of the Bruins is really on fire.
And that's vitally important for the Bruins as well, because that's historically against the Canadiens. I mean, the Canadiens are actually a more penalized team than the Bruins this season.
That's right.
But against the Canadiens, the Bruins are the ones who took the more penalties, who gave up the more power plays, and just lost their heads a little bit. So discipline is going to be a key factor for the Bruins. If they can stay out of the box, then this should be a very different series.
Who do you think has the more home ice advantage, the Bruins or the Canadiens?
Well, I mean, obviously, in a 7-game series, they get the extra game at home. Except that the Bell Center is an extremely difficult place to play, I think, for everybody. And you look at the stats that a lot of, like Tuukka Rask, loses his mind at the Bell Center. I don't know why, but he just can't do it. And there's other guys, there are some players who are very good players, but Dougie Hamilton who went very far in a playoff run last year in a bit role, he's the defenseman for the Bruins. He's never played at the Bell Center in the playoffs. This kid doesn't know what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And there are various others down the lineup. And so, home ice, except that it's Boston, Montreal, and look, it's all bets are off, right?
None of those traditional things that you look at in a series apply to this one.
Exactly.
A lot of people wanted that first round matchup. They're getting in the second. It's going to be really interesting to watch. Thank you so much for your insight on this, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right. Cheers.